The vast darkness of space surrounded the Vorn scout fleet as it approached the small blue-green planet. From their command ship, Commander Gray observed the third planet of this unremarkable solar system with growing interest. The Vorn had conquered 17 star systems in the last century, and this new discovery seemed like an easy addition to their growing empire. "Scan complete, Commander," reported Officer Reed, his gray skin reflecting the blue light of the display. "The primary species calls themselves humans. They have established colonies on their moon and the fourth planet, but their technology is primitive compared to ours." Commander Gray moved closer to the screen, his four eyes narrowing as he studied the data. "Any defense systems we should be concerned about?" "Nothing our ships can't handle," Reed replied confidently. "Their weapons are mostly projectile-based with some energy weapons, but nothing that can penetrate our shields." Gray nodded, satisfied. The conquest would be simple, as it always was. The Vorn strategy never changed. Strike quickly, take prisoners to study the species, and then decide if they were worth keeping as slaves or simply eliminating. "Commander," another officer called out, "we've received a transmission from the Council of Species." Gray frowned. The Council rarely contacted scout fleets directly. "Put it through." The main screen flickered, and the image of Elder Blue appeared. The ancient alien's translucent skin pulsed with light as it spoke. "Commander Gray, our sensors detected your fleet entering the Sol system. You must withdraw immediately." Gray was surprised. "Withdraw? Why would we abandon a perfect conquest opportunity?" Elder Blue's lights pulsed faster. "The species on the third planet, humans, are classified as extreme danger. They are not to be engaged." Gray laughed, a harsh sound that echoed across the command deck. "Extreme danger? Our scans show basic technology and limited space travel. What danger could they possibly pose?" "The danger is not in their technology, but in their nature," Elder Blue explained, voice grave. "The last species that attacked humans was hunted to extinction over the course of 300 years. They do not stop, Commander. They do not forget." Gray dismissed the warning with a wave of his hand. "All species fight when attacked. We are prepared for resistance." "You do not understand," Elder Blue insisted. "Humans don't fight like other species. They fight for something they call love. And when they fight for love, they are relentless." The transmission ended, leaving the command deck silent. After a moment, Gray turned to his officers. "Prepare the attack fleet. We will target their Mars colony first. It's isolated and will provide us with test subjects to study." 3 days later, the Vorn ships descended on the Mars settlement. The human defense was exactly as predicted. Brave but ultimately useless against Vorn technology. Their weapons barely scratched the hulls of the attack ships, and within hours, the colony was under Vorn control. Gray walked through the secured settlement, observing the captured humans. They were strange creatures. Only 2 arms and legs, no protective outer shell, and skin in various shades of brown and pink. How had such fragile beings managed to leave their planet at all? "Commander, we've selected 30 specimens for study," reported Captain Lark, the ground team leader. "We've also gathered data storage devices for analysis." Gray nodded. "Any resistance leaders?" "One. A human called Major Tom. He appears to have military training. The others followed his commands during the defense." "Bring him to me," Gray ordered. Major Tom stood tall despite his restraints. For such a physically unimpressive species, this one showed no fear. His face remained calm as Gray circled him. "You are the leader," Gray asked through the translation device. "Major Tom, Earth Defense Force, retired," the human replied evenly. "I was just a colony advisor." Gray studied him carefully. "You fought well for a retired advisor." "We all fight when we need to," Tom replied simply. "Why did you establish this colony?" "For resources." Tom's expression changed slightly, something Gray couldn't interpret. "We came to learn, to grow, to build a future for our children." Gray dismissed this as unimportant. Your species will now serve the Vorn Empire. Cooperation will make your lives easier." For the first time, Tom smiled, and Gray felt an unexpected chill. "You should have listened to whoever warned you about us." Gray froze. "What do you know of warnings?" "I know aliens talk," Tom said calmly. "And I know humans have a reputation out here. You're not the first to try this." Gray recovered quickly. "Take him to the ship with the others. Begin the standard information extraction." As the human was led away, Gray turned to Captain Lark. "What have you found in their data storage?" "Still analyzing, Commander. But there's something strange in the living quarters of the military human, a small frame with writing. Our translators say it reads, 'Love does not give up. Love protects. Love endures.'" Gray dismissed this as unimportant. "Religious nonsense, probably. Continue the analysis and prepare the prisoners for transport. I want to be ready to attack their Earth within 10 days. Back on the command ship, Gray recorded his report. First contact with humans successful. Minimal resistance as expected. The Mars colony has been secured with 30 captives for study. No significant technology discovered. The Council's warning appears to be based on superstition rather than fact. These humans are physically weak and technologically inferior. They will make acceptable servants or laboratory subjects. The conquest of their homeworld will proceed as planned." As he finished recording, an officer entered. "Commander, we've lost contact with 2 of our perimeter drones around Mars. Malfunction. Unlikely for both to fail simultaneously, sir." Gray frowned. "Increase alert status and scan for any approaching vessels." "Already done, sir. There's nothing out there." Later that night, as Gray slept, the humans in the holding cells began to whisper to each other. They passed information, counted guards, and mapped routines. Major Tom sat silently in his cell, eyes closed, seemingly defeated. But beneath his calm exterior, his mind was working, calculating, planning. He thought of Earth, of his family, of everything humans had built and dreamed of. He thought of the message in his quarters, the one the aliens had dismissed as religious nonsense. And as the Grand Council chamber of the Vorn capital ship hummed with tension as Commander Gray stood before the holographic projection of Elder Blue. The ancient alien's form shimmered in blue light, its translucent body pulsing with what Gray recognized as agitation. "You have made a grave error, Commander," Elder Blue said, voice echoing through the chamber. "Your attack on the human Mars colony has triggered exactly what we warned against." Gray crossed his arms, unimpressed. "We've heard nothing from Earth in 3 days. No transmissions, no response to our messages. If anything, they appear frightened into silence." Elder Blue's light patterns shifted to a deep warning red. "That is not fear, Commander. That is focus." The council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. One of them, Science Director Marsh, spoke up. "Elder, please explain your concerns more clearly. Our intelligence suggests humans are technologically inferior. Their weapons cannot penetrate our shields." Elder Blue's form expanded, filling more of the projection area. "Let me tell you a story that is not widely shared among the younger species. 300 cycles ago, another empire, the Krell, discovered Earth. Like you, they saw an opportunity for easy conquest. They attacked a human vessel near their moon." The chamber fell silent as all 4 of Elder Blue's eyes closed momentarily, as if remembering something painful. The Krell were powerful, far more advanced than humans at that time. They destroyed several human cities as a show of force, then demanded surrender. Elder Blue's voice grew quieter. The humans appeared to comply. They signed treaties. They offered resources. Gray leaned forward, and then they began to hunt. Not immediately. First, they studied. For 20 years, they learned everything about Krell technology, biology, culture. They sent diplomats who were actually spies. They traded for Krell technology, which they reversed engineered. Then, when they were ready, they struck. Elder Blue's form pulsed rapidly. The Krell never understood what was happening. The humans didn't fight like other species, for territory or resources. They fought for their dead, for their destroyed cities, for what they called justice. One by one, Krell worlds fell, not through overwhelming force, but through relentless pursuit. The Krell would retreat, thinking themselves safe, only to find humans had followed them across vast distances. Science Director Marsh looked troubled. What happened to the Krell? They no longer exist, Elder Blue said simply. The last Krell died 80 cycles ago, still running from human hunters. The Council passed a law after that. Never attack humans. They do not fight for conquest. They fight for love, and their love is infinite. Commander Gray snorted dismissively. This sounds like primitive superstition. We've studied the captives. They're physically weaker than even our youngest offspring. Their technology is basic. Their ships are slow. Tell me, Commander, Elder Blue asked, have you noticed anything unusual about your captives? Gray hesitated, then admitted, they're surprisingly calm, almost as if they're not afraid. They're not, Elder Blue confirmed. They're gathering information. Every moment you keep them is another moment they learn about you. The meeting was interrupted by an urgent communication. Officer Reed's voice came through the speaker. Commander, Outpost 7 has gone dark. All communications ceased 10 minutes ago. Gray frowned. Probably a communication malfunction. Check Outposts 6 and 8. There was a pause before Reed responded, his voice now strained. Outpost 6 reports they detected a small vessel just before losing contact with 7. The vessel disappeared from sensors immediately afterward. Gray's dismissive attitude faltered slightly. A single vessel? What type? Unknown design. Outpost 6 only caught a partial scan. Elder Blue's light pattern shifted again. It begins, just as with the Krell. Gray turned back to the projection. One outpost malfunction doesn't prove anything. We still have 30 human captives and a fleet ready to attack Earth. Have your ships been monitoring Earth? Elder Blue asked. Of course. There's been no unusual activity. And that doesn't concern you. Elder Blue pressed. No emergency broadcasts. No fleet mobilization. No panic. Before Gray could respond, another alert sounded. Reed's voice returned, now clearly alarmed. Commander, Outpost 8 has also gone silent, and we've lost contact with the supply vessel heading to Outpost 9. Gray felt the first stirrings of unease. Deploy patrol ships to all remaining outposts. I want continuous status reports. Turning back to Elder Blue, Gray asked reluctantly, what would you advise? Return the captives immediately. Withdraw from their system. Issue a formal apology. Gray laughed, but the sound lacked conviction. Apologize? To a primitive species, the High Command would never approve. Then you will learn why the Council fears humans, Elder Blue said, its form beginning to fade. Remember, humans don't fight like we do. They fight for love, for their people, their homes, their principles. And when they fight for love, they never stop. As Elder Blue's projection disappeared, the council chamber erupted in debate. Some members urged caution, others dismissed the warning as exaggeration. Gray listened silently, his mind churning. Meanwhile, aboard the prison ship, Major Tom sat quietly in his cell, eyes closed as if resting. The guard watching the security feed saw nothing unusual, just a defeated human sitting still. What the cameras didn't detect was the small device Tom had carefully removed from a hidden pocket during the initial search. Now, as he pretended to sleep, his fingers tapped out a complex sequence of signals that the device transmitted on frequencies the Vorn monitoring systems couldn't detect. Across the cell block, other humans received these signals through similar hidden devices. They exchanged knowing glances. The plan was working. Every day they gathered more information about Vorn technology, ship layouts, guard rotations. Every conversation they overheard was memorized and analyzed. Officer Reed rushed into Gray's quarters later that night. "Commander, we've detected an unidentified vessel near our position." Gray jumped to his feet. "Just one?" "Yes, sir. Small. Possibly a scout ship. It's just watching us." "Destroy it." "We can't get a weapons lock. It's using some kind of stealth technology we haven't seen before." Gray hurried to the command deck. The main screen showed empty space where the vessel should be. "Where is it?" "It was there a moment ago," Reed explained, pointing to the screen. "Then it just vanished. But before it disappeared, it transmitted something." "What message?" Reed looked uncomfortable. "Just 3 words, sir. We see you." Gray felt a chill run through his body as he remembered Elder Blue's warning. He pushed the feeling aside. "Increase security on the human prisoners. I want them separated and interrogated individually. Find out what they know about this vessel." When the guards entered Major Tom's cell to move him, they found him sitting calmly, as if expecting them. "Your friends have come?" one guard asked mockingly. Tom smiled slightly. "No one's coming for us." The guard laughed, finally accepting your situation. Tom's smile didn't waver. "You misunderstand. No one's coming because we don't need rescue. We're right where we need to be." As Tom was led away, another alert sounded throughout the ship. 3 more outposts had gone silent simultaneously, and from Earth there was still only silence, a silence that now felt less like fear and more like the calm before a storm. Commander Gray paced the length of the command deck, his normally gray skin now pale with stress. The holographic display before him showed the status of the Vorn fleet scattered across the solar system. Too many red indicators blinked where outposts should be reporting. 7 outposts silent in 3 days, Officer Reed reported, his voice tight. No distress signals, no signs of battle. They simply stopped communicating. Gray slammed his fist against the console. "This makes no sense. How can a technologically inferior species disable our outposts without a trace?" Science Director Marsh entered the command deck, datapad in hand. "Commander, we've analyzed the sensor logs from Outpost 10 before it went dark. They detected a single human vessel before communication ceased." "One ship." Gray turned, incredulous. "Always just one ship?" "Yes, Commander. Small, highly maneuverable, and using some kind of stealth technology we've never encountered. It doesn't attack. It simply observes and then disappears." Gray's 4 eyes narrowed. "Show me." The main screen flickered to life, showing grainy footage from Outpost 10. A sleek, dark vessel hovered just outside sensor range. Unlike the bulky human ships they had observed earlier, this one was elegant, almost predatory in its design. "That's not possible," Gray whispered. "Their ships are primitive. We studied their technology before the attack." Director Marsh nodded grimly. "It appears they kept some capabilities hidden." Or what?" Gray demanded. "Or they've been adapting much faster than we thought possible. The ship's design incorporates elements that look similar to our own technology." A cold realization settled over Gray. They're studying us while we study them. The ship's alert system blared suddenly. Reed's hands flew across the control panel. "Commander, we're detecting multiple vessels approaching the Mars colony." "Finally," Gray said with relief. "An actual attack we can meet. Deploy the defense fleet." The screen shifted to show Mars, where a dozen human ships had appeared seemingly from nowhere. Unlike the single observer vessel, these were clearly military, bristling with weapons, their hulls marked with Earth's insignia. "Time to show these humans the consequence of challenging the Vorn," Gray said confidently. "Activate all defense systems." The Vorn ships moved to intercept, weapons charging. But before they could fire, the human vessels split apart in a maneuver that seemed chaotic at first. Then Gray realized with growing horror that it was anything but random. They were executing a complex attack pattern that perfectly exploited gaps in the Vorn formation. "They know our defense protocols," Reed said in disbelief as the first Vorn ship exploded. Director Marsh studied his datapad, face grim. The human ships are targeting our weapon systems with surgical precision. They know exactly where to hit us. Gray watched as his defense fleet fell into disarray. 3 ships destroyed in minutes, the rest scattered and damaged. How? How do they know so much about our technology? A transmission cut through the chaos. The main screen filled with the image of a human female in a dark uniform. Her face was calm, her eyes hard. "This is Captain Stone of Earth Defense Force. We are reclaiming our Mars colony. Withdraw your forces immediately or be destroyed." Gray stared at the human, rage building. "You dare threaten the Vorn Empire? We will crush your planet when our main fleet arrives." Captain Stone's expression didn't change. "We're not interested in your empire, Commander. We only want what's ours. Return our people, and we will let you leave this system alive." The transmission ended abruptly. Gray turned to his officers. "Prepare the main battle fleet. We'll show these humans what real power looks like." Reed hesitated. "Commander, should we consider returning the prisoners? If that's all they want." "We do not negotiate with primitive species," Gray shouted. "The High Command would never allow such weakness. Ready all ships for battle." As the orders went out, Gray received a private message from Director Marsh. The science director's face appeared on his personal screen, looking troubled. "Commander, I've been analyzing the attack pattern of the human ships. They're specifically targeting vessels that might be carrying prisoners. They're avoiding ships they know don't have captives aboard." Gray frowned. "How could they possibly know which ships hold prisoners?" "I don't know," Marsh admitted. "But there's something else. We've been monitoring the prisoners, and their behavior has changed. They're more relaxed, almost expectant." Gray's unease deepened. "Increased security. I want guards doubled on all prison sections." When Gray entered the prison ship later that day, he found Major Tom sitting calmly in the interrogation room. Despite days of captivity, the human looked remarkably composed. "Your people are attacking our outposts," Gray said without preamble. Tom tilted his head slightly. "Are they? That's interesting. Don't play games." Gray slammed his hand on the table. "How are they finding our positions? How do they know our defense systems?" Tom smiled faintly. "You should have listened to whoever warned you about us." Gray leaned closer. "One of your leaders, Captain Stone, offered to let us leave if we return the prisoners. Is that all you want? Your people back?" "That's all we ever wanted," Tom replied simply. "We didn't start this fight." Gray studied the human carefully. "Your ships are more advanced than our intelligence suggested. You've been hiding your true capabilities." Tom shrugged. "Or maybe we learn quickly when properly motivated." Before Gray could respond, an alarm blared throughout the ship. He rushed back to the command deck to find chaos. Reed was frantically trying to coordinate with the remaining outposts. "What's happening?" Gray demanded. "Coordinated attacks across the system, Commander. The human fleet. It's not just a few ships anymore. There are dozens, maybe hundreds. They're systematically targeting our positions." The main screen showed the battles raging across the solar system. The elegant precision of the human attacks was terrifying. They weren't fighting with overwhelming force. They were fighting with perfect knowledge. "How did they build so many ships without our sensors detecting them?" Gray whispered. Director Marsh appeared on screen, his voice urgent. "Commander, we've intercepted communications between the human ships. They're sharing information about our shield frequencies, weapon systems, everything. Somehow, they know all our technical specifications." Gray's mind raced, trying to understand how this was possible. Then a terrible suspicion formed. The prisoners. Check their cells immediately. The report came back minutes later. 3 prisoners were missing from the lowest security section. The guards had no explanation. The cell locks were still engaged. The surveillance showed nothing unusual. Captain Stone's voice came through the communication system once more. "Commander Gray, this is your final warning. Return what we love, and we will stop. Keep what we love, and we will never stop." As Gray stared at the screen showing the advancing human fleet, a message from Elder Blue arrived. It contained only one line. I warned you. Human vengeance is terrible, but their mercy is still possible. The emergency lights bathed the Vorn Command Center in pulsing red as Commander Gray studied the battle reports. In just 5 days, the humans had destroyed or disabled 43% of the Vorn forces in the solar system. The pattern was always the same: precise strikes targeting specific systems, minimal casualties, and a focus on ships potentially carrying prisoners. They're being merciful, Gray muttered, unable to comprehend the strategy. Director Marsh nodded. It appears they're trying to avoid unnecessary deaths. Their attacks disable rather than destroy when possible. Gray pounded his fist on the table. This makes no sense. If they have this capability, why not eliminate us completely? An alert sounded, and Officer Reed's voice came through the communication system. Commander, there's been an incident on Prison Ship 3. Gray tensed. What kind of incident? 6 human prisoners are missing, Reed reported. But the strange thing is, they left messages behind. Gray and Marsh rushed to Prison Ship 3, where security footage showed empty cells with their locks still engaged. On the wall of each cell, simple messages had been scratched into the metal. We were never trapped. We stayed to learn. Your shields modulate every 7.3 seconds. Your translation matrix has 42 flaws we've identified. We know the way home. Thank you for the education. Gray stared at the messages, a cold dread settling in his stomach. They could have escaped at any time. Director Marsh examined the cell door. The locking mechanism hasn't been tampered with. It's as if they walked through the walls. Not through, came a voice from behind them. Both Vorn turned to see a guard entering. Above, we found access panels in the ceiling that had been removed and perfectly replaced. They've been mapping the ship's ventilation system. Gray's mind raced. Check all the other prisoners immediately. The report came back quickly. Half of the human captives were still in their cells, apparently making no attempt to escape. Among those remaining was Major Tom. When Gray entered Tom's cell, the human was sitting calmly on his bunk, as if expecting the visit. Your people are escaping, Gray said, watching for a reaction. Tom nodded. Some of them. The ones who learned what they needed to learn. Why are you still here? Gray demanded. Tom stood slowly, his movements deliberate. Because my job isn't finished yet. Your job. Information gathering, Tom said simply. The others learned about your technology. I'm learning about you. Gray felt exposed under the human's steady gaze. What do you mean? I've been watching you, Commander. You're not a monster. You're a soldier following orders from an empire that's never known defeat. Tom stepped closer. But you're starting to understand, aren't you? That this time is different. Before Gray could respond, another alarm blared. Reed's voice came through Gray's communicator, now edged with panic. Commander, Prison Ship 2 has been completely evacuated. All human prisoners are gone. And there's something else. We found this in the main control room. The screen on Gray's communicator showed an image. It was a small object made of folded paper, an art form humans called origami. It was shaped like a Vorn ship, perfectly detailed, with tiny writing across its hull. The camera zoomed in to show the message. We could have taken the whole ship. We only took what's ours. Gray looked up at Tom, who smiled faintly. It's called restraint, Commander. Something your people might want to learn. Back on the command deck, the situation had deteriorated further. Human ships had surrounded 3 more Vorn vessels, demanding surrender. The pattern was becoming clear. They were systematically targeting every ship that had held prisoners. How do they know? Gray demanded. How do they know exactly which ships to target? Director Marsh looked up from his analysis. I believe the escaped prisoners are transmitting information. But there's something else. Look at this. The screen showed a magnified image of a human soldier's uniform from the video feeds they'd intercepted. On the shoulder was a small insignia, a circle with a line through it. "We've been scanning for electronic transmissions," Marsh explained. "But this symbol contains microscopic quantum entanglement devices. They're communicating instantly across vast distances without any detectable signals." Gray stared at the image. "That's impossible. Our intelligence indicated humans don't have that technology." "They didn't," Marsh agreed, "until about 2 years ago. They've been advancing at an extraordinary rate." A transmission cut through their conversation. Captain Stone's face appeared on screen, her expression severe. "Commander Gray, your time is running out. We have recovered 60% of our people. Return the rest, and this ends today." Gray straightened. "And if I refuse?" Stone's eyes hardened. "Then we will take them, one ship at a time, until none of your fleet remains. We don't want your extinction, Commander. We want what's ours." As the transmission ended, Elder Blue's hologram appeared on a separate channel. The ancient alien's light patterns pulsed slowly, sadly. "You're beginning to understand now, aren't you, Commander?" Elder Blue asked. Gray sank into his chair. "They could have destroyed us already." "Yes," Elder Blue agreed. "But that's not their goal. Humans are unique among spacefaring species. They fight fiercely to protect what they love, but they take no pleasure in unnecessary destruction." "How do you know so much about them?" Gray asked. Elder Blue's form shimmered. "Because after the Krell extinction, the Council decided to study humans properly. We sent observers, established careful diplomatic relations. We learned that their capacity for vengeance is matched only by their capacity for mercy." "Mercy," Gray repeated the unfamiliar concept. "The prisoner, Major Tom, mentioned restraint." "Yes," Elder Blue nodded. "That is their true power. Not their weapons or technology, but their ability to hold back when they could destroy. The Krell never understood this. They interpreted human restraint as weakness and continued to fight until there was nothing left of them." A new alert sounded. Another prison ship had been completely emptied of human captives. The remaining Vorn crew reported that the humans had disabled their weapons and engines, but left life support and essential systems intact. Gray turned to Director Marsh. "How many human prisoners do we still hold?" 8, Marsh reported, "including Major Tom." "And how many of our ships remain operational?" 23 out of the original 112. Gray was silent for a long moment. Then he looked up at Elder Blue's hologram. "If I return the remaining prisoners, will they really stop?" "Yes," Elder Blue said with certainty. "That is the other thing you must understand about humans. They keep their word." Gray stood, his decision made. "Prepare the remaining prisoners for transfer. I want to speak with Captain Stone." As Gray headed toward his quarters to prepare for the negotiation, he passed Tom's cell. The human was standing at the small window, looking out at the stars. "Your captain says if we return you, they'll stop the attacks," Gray said. Tom turned, his eyes calm. "She means it." "Why?" Gray asked, genuinely puzzled. "Why stop when victory is certain? Any other species would press their advantage to ensure we never threaten them again." Tom considered the question carefully. "Because that's not who we are. We fight to protect, not to destroy. Once what we love is safe, there's no reason to continue fighting." As Tom spoke, Gray finally began to understand what Elder Blue had been trying to tell him. The humans' greatest strength wasn't their adaptability or their technology or even their determination. It was their ability to choose peace when war was easier. The Vorn homeworld hung like a jewel against the darkness of space, its 3 moons creating a protective triangle around the planet. For thousands of years, no enemy had ever reached this far into Vorn territory. Until now. Commander Gray stood on the observation deck of the Vorn High Command Center, watching as the defense fleet took position. Behind him, the 12 members of the Vorn Supreme Council argued loudly about the best course of action. "We cannot surrender to a lesser species," shouted Council Leader Dren, his scales flushing dark purple with anger. The Vorn Empire has ruled this sector for 3,000 years, but they've destroyed 2/3 of our fleet, countered another council member. They know our weaknesses, our defense systems. Because Gray let prisoners escape, Dren interrupted, pointing accusingly at the commander. This failure is his alone. Gray didn't turn from the window. His reflection showed a changed Vorn, his once proud posture now burdened with the weight of understanding. I didn't let them escape, he said quietly. They stayed until they had what they needed, then left when they chose to. A young officer rushed into the chamber. Supreme Council, we've detected a human fleet approaching the outer defense perimeter. The room fell silent. How many ships? Dren asked, voice tight with fear despite his bravado. Just one, council leader. Confused murmurs filled the room. Gray finally turned from the window. One ship. Are you certain? The officer nodded. Yes, Commander. One large vessel. It's requesting permission to approach for diplomatic talks. Gray moved quickly to the main control room, where the massive view screen showed a single human ship holding position, just beyond weapons range. It was larger than any human vessel they had encountered before. Sleek, powerful, and unmistakably a warship, despite coming alone. They're hailing us, the communications officer reported. Put it through, Gray ordered. Captain Stone's face appeared on screen. Behind her stood other humans in uniform, their expressions serious but not hostile. Commander Gray, Stone acknowledged with a slight nod. I'm here to discuss terms. Gray stepped forward. Terms. You have one ship against our entire home defense fleet. Stone's expression didn't change. Look more closely at our ship, Commander. The screen split to show a magnified view of the human vessel. Gray felt his blood run cold as he recognized the design elements. It was a perfect hybrid of human and Vorn technology, incorporating the best features of both. More disturbing were the weapons systems, entirely new designs that their sensors couldn't even classify. We've learned a great deal in the past 2 weeks, Stone said calmly. Your remaining prison ships have been located, and all our people are being recovered as we speak. I'm here to offer you a choice. Dren pushed his way to the front. We are the Vorn Empire. We do not negotiate with. Silence. Gray cut him off, never taking his eyes from the screen. What choice, Captain Stone? End this conflict now. Sign a non-aggression treaty. Respect the boundaries of Earth and its colonies. Stone's voice was even, reasonable. Do this, and we return to Earth, leaving your empire intact. And if we refuse? Gray asked, already knowing the answer. Then we will do what we must. Stone replied simply. But it doesn't have to come to that. Dren scoffed. Empty threats from a single ship. Stone's eyes shifted to Dren, then back to Gray. Commander, I think it's time you told your council what you've learned about humans. Before Gray could respond, the door to the control room slid open. Standing there, unrestrained and calm, was Major Tom. Behind him were 2 human soldiers, armed but with weapons lowered. How did you get here? Dren demanded, stepping back in shock. How did you reach the homeworld? Tom walked slowly into the room, the Vorn too stunned to stop him. I've been here for 3 days, Council Leader. Your security systems were educational. Gray wasn't surprised. Somehow, he had expected this. You were never just a prisoner. Tom nodded. Earth has had stealth technology for decades. I came aboard your command ship voluntarily when you attacked Mars. My mission was to learn, not to fight. Impossible. Dren sputtered. Our sensors would have detected any human vessels approaching the homeworld. Tom smiled slightly. Your sensors only detect what they're programmed to detect. We've been studying Vorn technology since your first scouts entered our system 2 years ago. Gray suddenly understood. You knew we were coming. You were prepared. Yes, Tom confirmed. We've been watching your expansion for some time. We hoped you would choose peaceful contact, but we prepared for the alternative. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Finally, Gray asked the question that had been haunting him since the first human counterattack. Why didn't you destroy us when you had the chance? Your ships clearly had the capability. Tom exchanged a glance with Captain Stone on the screen before answering. Because that's not who we are. We fight when we must, with everything we have. But we don't seek destruction for its own sake. Even after we attacked your colony, took your people, Dren asked, his anger now mixed with confusion. Especially then, Tom replied. It would have been easy to respond with equal violence. The hard path was to show restraint, to take back what was ours without destroying what was yours. Captain Stone spoke again. Commander Gray, the choice remains. Peace or continued conflict. Gray looked around the room at the faces of the Vorn leadership, then back at Tom and the image of Stone. In that moment, he finally understood what Elder Blue had tried to tell him from the beginning. The council needs time to discuss. Gray began, but Tom interrupted him. You don't have time, Commander. Right now, human ships are disabling the last of your prison fleet. Our people will be freed within the hour. After that, Tom let the implication hang in the air. Gray straightened his posture, making a decision that would change the Vorn Empire forever. I accept your terms, Captain Stone. The Vorn Empire will sign a non-aggression treaty with Earth and its colonies. Gray, you have no authority. Dren began, but fell silent when every other council member stepped away from him. Captain Stone, Gray continued, I would like to formally apologize for our aggression against your people. I was wrong. Stone nodded, her expression softening slightly. Apology accepted, Commander. Our diplomats will contact you within 24 hours to formalize the treaty. As the transmission ended, Tom turned to leave with his soldiers. Major, Gray called after him. One last question. What would you have done if we had refused peace? Tom paused at the doorway. We would have done whatever was necessary to protect our people. Not out of hatred, but out of love. His eyes met Gray's, and we would have pursued that mission across galaxies and through centuries if needed. That's what it means to be human. After Tom departed, Gray stood alone at the window again, watching as the human ship moved away from the Vorn homeworld. He thought about everything he had learned about this strange species, their fierce protection of what they loved, their capacity for both terrible vengeance and unexpected mercy. 3 days later, as the Vorn-Earth Treaty was being signed, Elder Blue arrived to witness the historic moment. The ancient alien found Gray in a quiet garden away from the ceremony. You understand now, Elder Blue said, not a question but a statement. Gray nodded. I understand why the Council fears them. Not because they're cruel, but because they're relentless when protecting what matters to them. Yes, Elder Blue agreed, and that is why we must add a new law to the Council codes. What law? Elder Blue's lights pulsed gently. Never take what humans love. Their pursuit will be infinite. As they watched the Earth delegation preparing to return home, Gray noticed something that had escaped him before. The humans wore no victory smiles, displayed no triumphant gestures. They simply completed their mission with quiet efficiency, eager to return to those they loved. And Gray finally understood the true meaning of strength.